And hold up. Let me see. I just want to confirm real quick. Because didn't they say according to a man who was in a relationship with Ramos's mother? See, that's what I was right. No father in his life. Mother is a drug user. Because and we're gonna talk about this next because next is the gun control part of the article. But I just want to touch on this right now because we always talk about this as far as like, you know, how do we prevent these sort of things from happening? And I'm not completely against some form of gun control, but generally speaking, I'm pro Second Amendment. I'm pro gun. And what I believe is the problem with these types of situations is that I feel like we look at things from the wrong angle. It's like we're looking at it from, okay, the guns being available, but we're not looking at what causes someone to turn into the type of person that would do something like this. Because even if he didn't have access to guns, who's to say that he couldn't have found another way to express the evil that was festering inside of him, the evil that manifested inside of him, the things that who's to say that he couldn't have found another way to express? You know, back in the day, you would just do some John Wayne Gacy, Ted Bundy type shit, just start killing people off the random, you know, getting your body count up over time. Now it's like they just try to get everything out the way. But I'm just saying, you don't need a gun to get a high body count. You know, I mean, now is all right. Now is different. I will admit now is different because of like technology and phones and cameras everywhere. Like it'll be hard to pull off some Ted Bundy shit nowadays. I will say that, but it's not impossible to really get it going. Like I think didn't Elliot Rodgers stab like 2 or 3 people to death before he even got started with the gun? So it's not like, and then of course the whole Bianca Davis situation, she got her head almost cut off by this dude. Certainly it would prevent like, it could prevent a high body count. But it's not going to stop these people from committing heinous acts of evil. And that's my primary concern. My primary concern when I look at stuff like this is what happened to him. What happened to him that contributed to him being the way that he was? What was his experiences? What was he exposed to? What did he lack? You know, that's what I look at when I look at things like, you know, Sandy Hook, or what's that real famous one that happened in Colorado, I think. God damn, I forgot. God, it's on the tip of my tongue, but you guys know the one I'm talking about. Like the most famous school shooting, the 2 guys, Tim and Eric, or so, I forgot their names. I'm sorry, I forgot the name of that one. But that one, Virginia Tech, what's the other one that's right there? Elliot Rodgers. You know, like, my concern, when I always think like, what happened to them growing up that made them the way that they are? Fuck the guns being available. What's happening to people that's leading them to that sort of outcome? And if we're to make any sort of significant change, I think that should be the focus more than anything else. And again, what stands out to me is that here's a young man, he didn't have a father figure. His mother was a drug addict. You know, his mother has boyfriends, and we don't know what type of men those guys are. Oftentimes the boyfriends are just as degenerate as the mother. If she's a degenerate, he could have been a meth head or something like that. You know, and so that's what I look at. It's very rare when you look at most of these guys who do these mass shootings. it's very unlikely that you're going to see a normal upbringing. You look at Elliot Rodgers, it's not a normal upbringing. There was even though he had a father in his life, his father wasn't really there. He didn't have a connection with his father. He didn't have a connection with his mother or even his family. You know, he was very much a isolated recluse type of a person, you know. And I think what always stands out to me about these guys is that there's not, and I don't want to just blame everything on not having a father figure, but that's one thing that's almost never there, is that father figure that's there raising them and teaching them and having that connection with them. Like, that's one of the main things that's always absent when you see these mass shootings take place, is that there's a lack of connection to family. There's a lack of authority. There's a lack of normal, healthy upbringing. You know, I would be concerned more about the guns if Chad and Brad were the ones doing this shit. If it was Chad, you know, to mom and dad is a lawyer, mom is a doctor, or stay at home mom, and he was the star player on the little league team and played basketball, dated the cheerleader. If he picking up guns and shooting up schools, look, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe we do need to look at gun reform, but it's always guys like this. It's the weirdos. It's the outsiders. It's the neglected. It's the ones who didn't have a healthy, normal-ish upbringing. And so that's really what I'm looking at when I see these type of situations. You know, I'm like, what is it about our society and our culture that can mold a young man into being something, being someone who will even want to do something like that? So, gun control discussions. President Biden delivered a speech on the shooting and asked, when in God's name are we going to stand up to the gun lobby? His lack of a concrete plan attracted controversy from gun control activists. In a speech given on the night of the shooting, Vice President Kamala Harris reacted to the shooting by calling for policy changes to prevent similar shootings. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer called for the U.S. to pass stricter gun control measures, and he urged Republican members of Congress to resist influence from the National Rifle Association, a gun rights lobby that Democrats have long blamed for Republican lawmakers' resistance to supporting gun control. The NRA-ILA's annual leadership forum on May 27th in Houston drew heavy criticism in light of the recent shooting. Former President Donald Trump, Governors Kristi Noem and Greg Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, Senators Ted Cruz and Jod Cornyn, and Representative Dan Crenshaw were previously scheduled to give remarks. Cornyn and Crenshaw subsequently canceled their attendances, and Abbott announced that he would instead appear at a news conference in Uvalde and send pre-recorded remarks to the NRA convention. Daniel Defense, the manufacturer of a firearm used in the shooting, decided not to attend. At the event, Trump and other Republicans rejected gun reforms, with Senator Cruz blaming mass shootings on a cultural sickness based on video games and fatherless children. Well, he got something going, right? And instead advocated for arming teachers and redesigning schools to have only one entrance and exit. Gun safety advocacy groups such as Moms Demand Action and March for Our Lives, as well as local teachers, unions, Black Lives Matter chapters, the Harris County Democratic Party, and Beto O'Rourke protested outside the convention. You know, and this is kind of what I talked about before, like cultural sickness, so to speak. And I think the fatherlessness is a big issue. I'm not going to completely just not say, like, I'm not going to completely not blame video games, but whenever I hear that, I can't help but scoff a little bit. If it is part of the issue, I think that it is only like a minor part of it, because we've had sick motherfuckers killing, shooting, stabbing, raping, like since God forever. even before video games. I'm pretty sure Ted Bundy wasn't influenced to strangle and rape women because of Pong, or what the hell was out when he was doing this shit. I don't. Yeah, I doubt Jeffrey Dahmer was inspired by Mario Bros or whatever the fuck was out on the NES back then. Like, I just feel like, and I know those are kind of different because they were more like hands-on serial killer types. But still, I mean, we look at like gang culture and shit like that. We've had like shootings are nothing new. So I question this whole video games being the problem narrative. Although I'm not gonna just outright say that it doesn't have some type of effect. But I'm not. Maybe I'm biased, but I'm not buying it. Top Texas Republican officials such as Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, Texas House Speaker Dan Phelan of Beaumont, Attorney General Ken Paxton, Representative Tony Gonzalez of San Antonio, and Senators Cornyn and Cruz resisted the possibility of increased gun control measures. Abbott said that tougher gun regulations were not a real solution. Instead of gun control, many Senate Republicans called for increasing security presence in schools, limiting entryways into schools, and arming teachers and other school officials. Republican Senator Ron Johnson promoted the Luke and Alex Safety Act, a bill to create a national database of school safety practices, but was silent on whether he was receding from his long-standing opposition to universal background checks. Johnson's move to advance his bill by unanimous consent was blocked, with Schumer saying that the Senate was going to vote on gun legislation through consideration of the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act, and that Johnson's proposal could be considered as part of that process. Senator Cruz commented that some politicians will politicize the shooting to push for stricter gun reforms. Users on social media accused Cruz of hypocrisy for accepting money from gun interest groups and for planning to speak at the NRA's annual meeting being held in Houston with Abbott and Cornyn. Oh, Cruz, you dirty, dirty boy. Manuel Oliver, a gun control activist and the father of a Stoneman Douglas High School shooting victim, issued a statement expressing his outrage and said that the families of the victims do not need thoughts and prayers of politicians. Instead, they need their kids. Several families of the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting victims spoke out, with several calling for stricter gun control. Activist Fred Gutenberg, whose daughter was killed during the Stoneman Douglas High School shooting, also called for politicians to enact stricter gun control and expressed support for the families of Robb Elementary School victims. Gun manufacturer Daniel Defense was met with social media criticism in the wake of the shooting, including criticism of a since-deleted Twitter post made on May 16th depicting a child holding a Daniel Defense rifle, causing the company to make many of its social media accounts private. Why would y'all bitch out like that, though? I mean, dude, man the fuck up. Like, these some pussy motherfuckers. I don't give a fuck what side you on, but stand the fuck up, nigga. Shit. God. Damn. Take the skirt off for a second. Fuck. In a press conference during the 2022 NBA playoffs, Golden State Warriors head coach Steve Kerr expressed his outrage at the refusal of American politicians to implement laws on gun control, while the Miami Heat urged their fans to contact state senators demanding their support for common sense gun laws. The social media accounts for the New York Yankees and Tampa Bay Rays began posting facts about gun violence during a game in St. Petersburg, Florida. So, man, this is a heavy topic, and this is definitely something that I want to dive deeper into in the near future. You know, the whole gun control discussion, because I haven't thought too much about it. You know, I'm born into a country with the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. I'm used to us being able to own firearms. I don't own one myself, but I plan on getting one. But one thing that I've thought about, and this is why me personally, I'm pro gun ownership. I'm not anti-gun control. I'm pro-gun ownership because it's not a black and white thing. I don't think you have to be like, okay, everybody can own machine guns and nuclear bombs, or take all guns away. It's not a black and white thing. I do believe in gun ownership for the average citizen, but I also believe that there has to be certain standards as far as like who can purchase them and background checks and things of that nature. But what I've thought about personally is just what it really means for the average citizen to be able to own a firearm. Like, that's no small thing. And and maybe this makes me sound like like some old white Republican, but I'm being serious when I say this. And I thought about it. Like, I feel like the Second Amendment is one of the greatest expressions of our freedom as a people, because we have not relinquished the right to defend ourselves with adequate force relevant to the levels of force that are available to people in the modern world, right? We have not relinquished that and said, okay, big daddy government, protect me. Here's my gun, daddy, protect me. Protect me, daddy government. You have the guns. You have the protect me. Cause that's what it is. that's what it is. We're not responsible enough to have guns. Big daddy government, you handle it. We're not. We can't handle it. We can't handle self-defense on that level. You take care of it. And I think the more you do that, and it's not just with guns, it's so many, because I think even when you look at the vax situation of yesteryear, seemingly, that's kind of similar, where it's like, I can't make up my own decisions as far as like my medical decisions. You take over. You dictate what I put in my body. Big daddy government, big daddy. Ooh, please, big daddy, wear my back out with your vaccine. I know I'm being funny, but that's really what it is. And that, when I realized that, it made me appreciate the Second Amendment all the more, and I think that, these shootings, they're tragic, they're unfortunate, but I think that something that people have to really think about is the price of freedom. And what it means, because I think that people have a tendency to want comfort and safety over freedom. Like, just we don't want the responsibility of, because that's kind of what it is. We don't want the responsibility of being free to make these kind of serious decisions, because when you have higher levels of freedom, that comes with higher levels of responsibility. And when that responsibility is not taken care of, you have situations like this, right? And let's just for hypothetically, let's say that Ramos, what could have prevented him from doing this was just having a good father figure in his life. That's where someone is not taking responsibility. You didn't take responsibility for your child, for your son as a man. And now the freedom that he has to purchase a gun at 18 has turned on innocent children and adults. And this is what I'm saying as far as like the balance of responsibility and freedom. And I think that's what people have to understand, is that, now I understand it's like you can't have absolute freedom. Like, okay, no traffic laws, no laws at all. Right. But it's a balancing act of rules and regulations and freedoms and whatnot. And the gun one is big. I think I think people really underestimate and undermine what it really means for the average citizen to be able to own a gun. Like, that's no small thing. That's major. That's major freedom. And just for a second, I'm going to put on my tinfoil hat. I let it be known, because I don't have all the facts. I don't know everything. I don't have, like, I'm a dude in his mom's laundry room, right? I masturbate in here. So, but I'm putting on my tinfoil hat. And this is the whole conspiracy thing, right? Because you look at Australia, for example. Australia is a country that the citizens were able to have guns, and then they gave their guns up. They gave up their firearms. And then you look at what happened during the pandemic, where people were, they had some of the most harsh enforcement of vaccine mandates, or would be vaccine mandates. They had some of the worst enforcements of like lockdowns and not being able to go outside and having to wear masks. And they even had like little camps and shit for people who had COVID or weren't vaccinated. And you had people literally having their skulls cracked and old ladies knocked down and pepper sprayed in the face because they were protesting that they wanted to go outside. And you didn't see that in America. You wonder the fuck why you didn't see that in America? Because niggas would have got shot. That's the fuck why. And when I see stuff like that, when I look at how, when you look at like the peak of the pandemic madness, the peak of the pandemic fuckery, and you look at America and Australia just as two examples, one with guns, one with no guns, and you look at how it was drastically different as far as like the government putting its foot down on people's neck. Again, people skull cracked in the middle of the street. Old lady, like, it was crazy, bro. Like, I ain't forgot that shit. It was wild. Like, it's kind of crazy how now it's all getting swept under the rug. But that shit was really wild, dude. But you know, that would have never happened in America. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you cannot undermine the value of what it means for us to own firearms. Yeah, it sucks. It's tragic that this shit happened. But you know what? It's tragic that people die in car accidents every year. Do we give up cars because people die? Do we give up airplanes because planes crash? Do we give up everything that could potentially be problematic for people, that could kill people, you know? And again, it's a balancing act. But me personally, I do believe in gun ownership for the average citizen. But it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, just bad shit is also gonna happen because of it, and you kind of gotta accept that. But it's like, do you give up the responsibility and freedom of being a free man, of being a free woman, because bad things might happen? You know, and I think that's the conversation that people got to have with themselves. That's the conversation that people got to have. That's because to me, I think that's what I see when I see this whole conversation, this whole debate about gun control. Because again, it says so much about our country that we can own firearms. It says a lot. It's not the, you know, that is big. That's huge. Who knows the type of shit we'll be going through if we didn't own fire. The government always knows, no matter what, these people have guns. I know Biden was talking that shit about, oh, the military got this and the military got that. But like someone said, or somewhere, look at Afghanistan, look at Iraq, motherfuckers out there in the damn caves and shit with AKs and grenades. They did a good job. They didn't have the technology and the military force of America, but they did a good job putting up a fight. Goddamn, that's all I'm saying. But as far as like on the other side of gun control, again, this is me just talking without knowing all the facts and not having really dove into this particular subject deeply. So forgive me if I'm misguided in my way of thinking. But as far as gun control, the things that make sense to me are things like background checks, right? Not selling guns to people who've been in mental hospitals for like serious shit. You know, not like, oh, he was cutting himself at 16 or something. I'm saying like mental hospital, this nigga crazy, schizophrenic, tried to strangle his granddad. Like them types. Obviously, no firearms for felons, stuff like that makes sense to me. Background checks, I don't see the issue with stuff like that. But what I worry, and again, this is the conspiracy, this is the tinfoil hat, because this is the conspiracy, is that like this is a way of like it's the damn, what the fuck you call it? What is that shit called? Oh god, it's on what is that shit called? Hold up. Give me a sec. It's gonna kill me if I don't remember it, because it's so hold up. Damn, the slippery slope. I'm sorry, it slipped my mind, but it's the slippery slope that worries me, because it's like it starts with stricter gun control laws, right? That's because, and again, this is conspiracy, Chad Marco. I got the tinfoil hat on. This is conspiracy, but if there is a force, a power in the world that seeks to take power and strength and freedom away from the average person, you can't do it overnight. Not in the modern world. You have to be smart about it. You do things gradually, and you amp it up from there. And so the conspiracy is that all of this talk about gun control, like now they're saying, okay, we just want stricter gun control. But over time, it's going to get stricter and stricter and more limited and limited. And before you know it, we're looking like Australia leaking in the middle of the street. What does Coach Greg Adams always say? Leaking in the street. We like Australia leaking in the street. And again, that's the conspiracy. That's the conspiracy side of things. That all of this gun control talk is, they're trying to sell you on it. Like, okay, look, we just want strict. Look, just give us an inch. We just want an inch. And then they take a mile. That's the conspiracy. And I'm not, look, again, I don't have all the facts. I'm just, I'm just in Alex Jones mode right now. I don't know. But that's what kind of worries me is that sort of slippery slope situation happening where we give up a little bit at a time, and before you know it, you're out of the door. Like they backed you up a couple steps, and you kept stepping, and before you know it, you out of your own damn house. That's what I worry about. But